Hi everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video, and happy Wheel of Time week. Yes, we are just 3 short days away from the release of Season 2 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. I know where I'm going to be Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I think many of you folks will be in the same spot watching Episode 1, and then probably, hopefully, coming over to the channel to watch my reviews and videos on it just afterwards. Now, I told you earlier this week that we would likely get something from the Wheel of Time team every single day this week, considering they can't properly promote the show due to all the strikes and everything else going on, and they have not disappointed. We got yet another teaser yesterday featuring Ishamael in what appears to be Lanfear. He's releasing her from the Dark One's prison. So we're going to cover that in today's video. I'll show you the teaser. We'll talk about the differences between the book and the show, how this is going to fit in, and just what is that prophecy that he's speaking about during the clip. If you haven't read the books before, it might be a little bit confusing. Don't worry, we're going to cover all of that today. Now, if you're new to the channel, you don't know what we do here. We cover Wheel of Time show news, pretty much anything and everything to do with the Wheel of Time. If you like that sort of thing, please subscribe to the channel, and of course, click the like button on the video. Come this Thursday and Friday, there's going to be a ton of Wheel of Time content coming from What Up. We're covering every single episode, reviews, breakdowns, Easter eggs, and all of the news surrounding Season 2. And then once Season 2 is done, I'm going to start releasing my Season 3 leaks. We have a lot of them. All right. All of that being said, we do have to give a bit of a spoiler warning before jumping into this teaser that they released because it deals with elements of Season 2 and the first 4 books. So, spoiler warning, if you have not watched Season 1 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show, that's episodes 1 through 8, streaming on Prime Video right now, or have not read the first 4 books in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, that's The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, The Dragon Reborn, and The Shadow Rising, be forewarned, I may ruin plot points and character arcs from both of those mediums. Alright, that being said, let's get on to that teaser.
Lanfear sarkondemni Akhabat kasay zarhay hage Mahai Masha sarsenna inisodin order Sarge Matsarnie Lule Tinto Mara Shosva. Blood feeds blood. Blood cools blood. Blood is blood war. And blood shall ever be.
Alright, so far, my favorite clip the Wheel of Time has released for Season 2. Why? Because it depicts something we don't get to see on page in the book series. The release of the Forsaken from the Dark One's prison just sort of happened off page. It was described in very broad strokes, and then they showed up as sort of flavor of the week villains. Now, actually, that's not fair. Not every Forsaken in the book series was a flavor of the week villain. That's an overgeneralization, but a good many of them were. We had a couple of them that were fully fleshed out, had backstories, had motivations, they interacted with various characters and multiple storylines. But quite a few of them were just kind of there for a little bit. They served as an obstacle in the road for our heroes for a book, perhaps a book and a half, and then they were removed from the equation. We never really get to learn their motivations, their backstories, things that happened, what they felt like, why they were doing what they were doing. So in my mind, that was one of the big gripes I had with the book series, is that a lot of the villains were sort of just there. Now, Brandon Sanderson did a great job of writing a couple of short stories to flesh out a couple of their motivations later on, which in my opinion was absolutely fantastic. But I hope the show does that on screen, and so far from what we're seeing, I think it will. So, we got to ask ourselves a bunch of different questions, and if you've been longtime fans of the series and have read the series a whole bunch of times, or if you've been following very closely with a lot of the production material and the social media accounts, you probably know the answer to some of these questions already. But for those of you who haven't read the book series, or it's been a while, or you're not following as closely as you might, if you don't have an X account, which a good many of you don't, we're going to try to answer these questions for you today. The first one is, where's Ishamael? What is the thing above his head, the thing in this picture depicted next to me? What is going on? What is he saying? Because he says 2 different sayings. The first is in the Old Tongue, and the second one is in English. And who is the person at the end of the video? And how does this fit into Season 2? So all of these questions are things I'm going to try to answer in today's video. All right, let's start with the thing above his head. You see it in the picture here next to me. We believe this is the seal for the Dark One's prison. So, in the book series, there are 7 seals made of heartstone. Heartstone is pretty much indestructible. And they're not really seals, they're focal points for the seal in the Dark One's prison. And as the series goes on, they tend to break or they get corrupted and they slowly fall apart. But Heartstone is supposed to be completely indestructible, and any use of the one power against it just makes it stronger. So I think maybe they're going to be going away from that just a little bit in the series, because from what we've seen in the episode 8 of season 1 was a giant seal on the ground underneath Rand and Ishamael when they had their fight that sort of cracked at the end. This one we're seeing a big seal above Ishamael's head. And I think that this seal, the one we're seeing here in this picture, is the actual seal in the Dark One's present in Sheol in the Blight. I think that's what it is, because as he's channeling, you see it sort of light up. You get to see some rubble kind of fall from it, and I think each one of those triangles or those focal points of this star represent one Forsaken, and then the center could be both light and dark. So the Dark One being trapped in his prison. Again, I'm spitballing. Nobody really knows what this means. There's a lot of theories out there, but I'm thinking that in the show there's only going to be 8 Forsaken, which is kind of a change from the book series. So we're 13 in the book series, but like I said earlier, not all of them had a whole lot to do, and it's pretty easy to grab them and amalgamate them into other characters. And considering that Rafe Judkins likely only has 8 seasons to complete the entire book series, cutting out some of those villains in their storylines or amalgamating them into other Forsaken is probably a really smart move. So I'm thinking the theory is that we have 8 Forsaken, and that there are 8 focal points to the star, and that each one of those focal points is for one of the Forsaken. Now, we've seen it, Ishamael basically released in the first season, and you're probably saying to yourself, well, he was released. He was already released. Well, sort of, kind of. He was only half trapped, and there was a cycle of time where he could actually come out and touch the world and project himself and cause chaos and strife, and that's sort of what was happening during the Eye of the World. And then he got fully released at the end of the Eye of the World. Now, this here, I think, is the release of Lanfear. The reason I'm saying it's the release of Lanfear is because he actually says her name. And the prophecy that he speaks in English at the end directly has to do with Lanfear. So he says 2 things here. He says the Old Tongue, and then he says English. So what does the Old Tongue mean? All right, so when Ishamael is speaking here, he speaks an entire script of prophecy. Half it's in the Old Tongue, half it's in English. In the Old Tongue translation, I'm going to give full credit to Pevara T over on X. If you don't follow them over on X, if you have an X account, please do so. I left a link to their account down below. They are the Twitter of Time or the Wheel of Time fandom's resident Old Tongue expert. Basically, anytime there's Old Tongue in any videos or teasers or on items, they have it translated before anyone else can even look at it. So this particular prophecy was scrawled on the walls of Faldera following a Trolloc attack in The Great Hunt. So this actually exists in the book series. It just is depicted in a different manner. And the first part that he speaks in the Old Tongue is, Daughter of the night, she walks again, the ancient war she yet fights, her new lover she seeks, who shall serve her and die, yet serve still. Who shall stand against her coming? The shining walls shall kneel. So, that's what we think it says. Pevara has translated quite a few of the lines, and it's the major points out of that first part of prophecy. So we think that Old Tongue version, at the first that Ishamael speaking, actually has lines of that prophecy in it. So really very neat. But the second part that he says in English is blood feeds blood, blood calls blood, blood is and blood was and blood shall ever be. So this entire prophecy is about Lanfear. Now, you'll notice the very first word that he says when he starts speaking is Lanfear, and translated into English, that's Daughter of the Night. Daughter of the Night is what she was called in the book series a fair bit, but it's just a translation of her Forsaken name from the Old Tongue to English. That's all it is. Either way, this entire prophecy has to do with Lanfear. So as he's channeling, you can see kind of the swirl around him, and then the one power goes into the ground, kind of swirls around the ground, and then Lanfear kind of just appears out of the ground. As he's doing that, though, there's a little bit of rubble that seems to fall from above him. I think the seal has been weakened, and he just sort of stuck a wedge in there to allow Lanfear out, and what you're seeing is the crumbling or the breaking of the seal in that way. That's why I think that this seal above him is the focal point in Sheol. So we're actually starting to see the actual Dark One's prison here. Now, we don't get to see these things super early on in the book series because they don't go to Sheol until much, much later. But I think it's neat that they're actually fast forwarding and getting to that part really soon. All right, so Lanfear at the end, it kind of comes up and she's covered in blood. Now, who is Lanfear? Well, Lanfear, the daughter of the night, is also Selene. So we've seen her in other promotional materials during the Great Hunt and in other various parts of the book series. She masquerades as Selene, which is one of her alter egos. She has a few of them in order to basically sow chaos or to court Rand. So she is super obsessed with Rand because he's the Dragon Reborn. And during the Age of Legends, she was super obsessed with the dragon. The dragon basically was with her for a bit and then found his wife, and there's a whole story there, but essentially he didn't choose her. He chose someone else, and they had children, and they were very happy, and she was just bitter and angry about it the whole time and completely obsessed with him. And that's carried over to present day when Rand is his reborn incarnation, and she is just obsessed with Rand in the book series as she was with the dragon. And we've started to see a little bit of that with the clip of Selene and Rand. I think we'll get to see the more involved stuff later on, but that just goes to show that she's starting to try to woo him during the second season, which is kind of neat. Now, Lanfear is one of the Chosen. In the book series, the Chosen are what they call themselves, and everyone else calls them Forsaken. They are the 13 most powerful channelers during the Age of Legends that went to the Dark One's side, and they were sealed up in the Dark One's prison with him. So because this seal has 8 points, that's what leads us all to believe that there's likely only going to be 8 in the show, not 13, which, in my opinion, is no real big loss. There's a couple of them that can be cut completely, and we would never even notice. Now, when the seal is sort of, I think, broken at the end, when the rubble kind of comes down, I think, like I said earlier, there's a wedge in there and Lanfear can pop out. I think we're going to start seeing this probably once a season, maybe even twice a season, where we start to see Forsaken removed as being the big bad of the season. And that's kind of a neat thing to do, especially since Rafe Judkins has likely only 8 seasons to do the Wheel of Time. If they release a Forsaken or 2 every single season, it's a good way of keeping things fresh and not fighting the same person over and over again. Like in the book series, the first 3 books, basically, Rand fought Ishamael at the end of each book, and it was sort of the exact same fight every single time. I don't think we're going to see that in the show because it's kind of redundant, and I don't think viewers would go for it too much. I think we're going to see a different fight every single season. Now, all of this being said, I'm pretty excited for season 2, and so this goes to show that we know for sure there are some major Darkfriends in the second season. There are some major Forsaken in the second season, so we're seeing Lanfear and Ishamael for sure. And I'm wondering what we haven't seen, because they're showing us so much, but usually what they show us is only scratches the surface. So is there going to be another Forsaken release this year? I think there may be, mainly due to the reason that, like I said, 8 seasons, 8 Forsaken. This is season 2. They're not going to want to release a Forsaken probably in the last season. They're probably going to want to release them all before then. So we may see a third one released this year. I don't know. So let me know in the comments down below what you folks think. Did you like this scene? Did you like seeing this depiction of what we believe is Shale Ghul in the Dark One's prison? We didn't get to see it on page in the books from the Forsaken being released. Is that something you liked? I have read a few posts where people were super unhappy with it because it didn't happen in the book series. Well, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's been noted a number of times to gird your loins. There's going to be major changes from the books to season 2, and that's because they're accelerating everything greatly. They have to get through this stuff really fast, and they're going to cut and amalgamate some major things, but the same beats of the story, the same beats of the plot are all going to be there, just in a different way. Either way, I've been told season 2 is incredible TV, and I can't wait to see it. And I know I'll be judging it fairly when it comes out, because I did so with season 1, and I was one of the few creators that didn't give every episode top marks because some of them were not really up to snuff. So we'll see how it goes for season 2. I have high expectations, and I hope it meets them. So thank you so very much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.